Okay, everybody, so in the last lesson, we learned about the different comparison operators such as the equality, identical, strict, not equal to operators, not identical operator, greater than and less than operators, and the spaceship operator. So in this next lesson, let's try to talk about the logical operators. So let's have an HR here and another PHP tags for our, and let's echo out logical operators. Let's give this a bit of a bigger text. So let's just try to go look at some examples for the use of the logical operator. And logical operators are really useful when we want to go and combine different types of comparisons together. And we want to check whether or not both of them will be correct. PHP logical operators can be used to combine conditional statements. So some of this will be the operator AND, OR, XOR, AND, OR, which is the pipe characters on the keyboard, and the NOT. So these are some of the different operators that we will encounter when we are working on trying to check some conditional statements. And if we try to look at some examples here, let's have a $X assign the value of 100, $Y assign the value of 50. And if we want to go and try to, let's try to var dump this and try to check if we say var dump $X and $Y, what are we going to see on our browser? If we try to refresh this, we're having a value of true. So that means because X is equals to 50, let's just say I'm going to, let's have a strict operator here for 100 and Y will be strict operator of 10. What are we going to get? We're getting a value of false. So that means if we are trying to compare the two values of the X and Y variables that we've declared here, and we're trying to check on whether it will be true or false, if we are using the AND operator, we need to have both the expressions that we have here to be true. Because in this case, we have one expression, or we have the variable declaration that we're checking for the value of 100, that's true. The Y variable here, we're checking if it has a value of 10, and that's false. So that means we will be getting a value of false in our result in the example that we're showing here right now. So you will see we're getting the value of this is false because 1 is false, or let's say because one of our expressions, let's see, is false. So that means this Y is currently not having the value of 50. So you would see there. And if I go and give this a value of 50, you'll see we'll get that true value. So the key thing to remember here when we are using the AND operator is that it has to be both of them should be true. So if I go and copy this again and paste that here, and let's go and have this value 50, this should return true. Okay, so here we get false, return false. Let's have a line break. Let me just go get a line break here. And let's go copy this again. Let's just see what will happen if we have this false and the other side will be true. This should return false because one of them is not true, right? So we're expecting that we will be getting a false value. What if we have, let's have one more. What if both are not true? We will be getting a false value also. So you would see it's important that both items should be true for us to be able to get that Boolean express or Boolean value of true in our display here. So important thing to take note of, we would want to make sure that the AND operator should have both conditions true. So that's the take home here. The AND operator should have both conditions true. One thing about the AND operator that we have here, the word AND, that will be same with the ampersand. The only difference is what we call precedence when we are using these operators in combination with one another. So let's try to look at some operation here for some more expressions that will be displaying this value. So let's say I have a Boolean variable here and I gave it a true and false, and we want to go and check. So we're checking these expressions and we want to check on whether, let's have an echo for $Boolean. Let's have this syntax, which is going to be a ternary operator, and let's have \n just to add a line break. What are we going to get? So we do get that false value. So you would see we're getting this false value because the ampersand here, or the AND operator, evaluates false because the first operation is performed, then the result is going to be assigned to the variable Boolean here, because precedence of the operation that we have here is higher than the precedence to this assignment operator. And if we try to do the exact same thing here, let's try to look at our example here. And let's give this an AND. What are we going to get? We're evaluating a true. So that means this is the first expression that's getting to be evaluated. So Boolean is assigned the value of true and false. So now we are checking in the ternary operator here. This is a simple conditional statement. Just for now, just have in mind that we're trying to check on whether this is true or false, and we currently have this value as true because this has a lower precedence than the lower, or this AND operator has a lower precedence over this assignment operator. That's why we're getting that value of true. In this case, we are now having the evaluation here. So this is producing false because we now have assigned this value to the Boolean variable. And if we try to get or var dump $Boolean, what are we going to get? We're getting that Boolean false, right? And if we var dump here Boolean, what are we going to get? We're getting a Boolean value of true. So because this has higher precedence over the AND operator, what if we put this to in is that going to be possible? What are we going to get? We're getting a false value now, right? Because we know true and false are not true. But if we say true and true, we're getting that true value. So just have that in mind. I know this is a bit of a complicated thing that you might encounter, but we can see here precedence is what we're trying to look into here, and this has higher precedence over the assignment operator, and in here this has a lower precedence over the assignment operator. That's why this is first evaluated before this is evaluated, and in here we are evaluating this first before this is going to be evaluated. Now we also have here what we call the OR and OR operators. So that means let's have a separate line here for this PHP. Let's have an echo for H3 OR and OR. So again, the main take home here is that both of this will be evaluating if one of the expressions is true or false. So what I mean by that is that if, let's say, I would have $x is assigned the value of 20, $y is assigned, let's say, assign some values here, 30, and then if we try to do a var dump and we would want to check for $x, or $y, or variable declarations that we have here. If one of this is going to be true and this one is going to be false, what are we going to get? And we are expecting that we should be getting a true value. So you will see we're getting a true value because either of the two values that we have here is going to be true. This will be producing true. So this, we know that this is false, right? This is not 30. We only need one to be true in both of the expressions that we're checking here for this to produce true. But if both are false, that's the time that we'll be getting a false value. And you will see if I say that this is going to be false and this is going to be true, you will see we will still get a true value. So that's why we are utilizing this OR operator. And again, similar with the double ampersand here, which is the AND operator that requires both values to be true. In this case, that in here, we only need one of the expressions to be true for us to be able to produce a value of true. So you will see, and we're still getting that true value. So both expressions are true. So we have one expression false on the right. We still get true. We still should get a true value. And here, let's have this true. And this one will be false. One expression is false on the left. On the left, we still should get a true value. So we have true, true, and still a true value. Now, if we say that we would want to have a both expression false, both expressions are false, we should get a false value, Boolean value, right? So we do get that Boolean value of false. And just to read this much better, let's go and try to add some values here, and let's check. So we do get that true, 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 and then the false value, specifically when we are checking the value of x and y, and both of the values are false. That's the only time that we got that false value. And I think I just made a mistake here. We have here the left, one expression false on the left and one expression false on the right. Just to correct this, because this one is not correct, right? And here we have the left one is the one that is not correct while we're checking for the Boolean values. So I hope that this is clear, and just to give you a bit of a quick Google search, I just did a quick Google search here, and you will see PHP has two logical AND operators. We have the AND, double ampersand AND, and two logical OR operators, which will be the two pipes and the OR word. And the two characters, the two ampersand and the two pipe characters, have a higher precedence than AND OR. And AND OR are below even the assignment operators, and that's what I showed you here in this example. That's why the precedence of this getting evaluated first before this, and in here we are evaluating this first before getting assigned to the Boolean value here. So just have that in mind. At least you know that that is something that is present in the PHP language. So perhaps that's it for this lesson for the logical AND and OR, and I'm hoping that you got some ideas here for you to explore the different ways on how, or some examples on how we can try to work with the logical operators for the AND, OR, and the ampersand, ampersand, double ampersand, and the double pipe characters that we have here.